Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to another set of Genshin Impact reactions. Today we have two from Zavehans in the comments of the last video. So this will be Alucinatio, Gloriosa, and Year of Tribulation in that order. Of course, I'm going to be doing my usual thing where I split them up and talk about them individually. The only thing I know about these songs is that they're from Remuria, and that's honestly a kind of a new name to me. I think I've only seen that mentioned before. Maybe I've heard a song from that. I think it's a region. It's the fact that I'm not sure. It proves a lot. It says a lot. But I guess I'll be experiencing it for the first time potentially here. So without further ado, let's go. Immediately, this kind of sounds familiar. So maybe I have heard something from this before. Unless they're just using the same instruments, possibly. Oh, that's gorgeous. Ooh. It's so pretty, but honestly really unfortunate they have to use an artificial choir. At least it sounds artificial. I feel like it's too stiff to be anything but. It's a beautiful line though, like the melody is gorgeous. Short, sweet, and to the point though, as always. All right, so again, gorgeous. It sounded beautiful. The biggest drawback to this is definitely the way that the choir felt. I cannot help but think that this was probably a canned choir, which again, not necessarily a bad thing. You can't always be getting the choir at your fingertips, you know? It's not like it's a completely open option for most people at most times. So you just kind of work with what you got and who you got to work with. But that said, I did look up who the choir was, and it's apparently the Budapest Scoring Choir, which kind of muddies the water a little bit further, because while they do definitely do legitimate recording sessions and they have their orchestra and their choir that you can purchase to use to rent out basically as a composer and have live sessions, I believe they also have pre-recorded options available, like pre-canned versions of their choir that you can freely manipulate in a DAW. So it's very possible that this is what was happening here, because the choir's balance sounded really good. The voices worked together, but they also felt like it was being played on a keyboard. There is always the possibility that I'm completely wrong and that it was just the fact that they sound really good, like literally faking it good. Like they're so clean and good at their job that it sounds artificial. That is possible, and it has fooled me before, so that is very much an option there. It just felt a little bit stiff as a result though. I think there could have been a little bit more humanizing going on in that. I think this song lost a lot of its oomph because it didn't really have that. It felt a little too clean, and there's definitely a balance to be had there. Certain songs can get away with that a little bit better than others. This being so stripped down, having a lot less going on in the instruments, made the vocal problems a little bit more clear and therefore sound a little bit worse in my opinion. Because it was beautiful, the melody was gorgeous, it was haunting, it was something that made you feel like you were lost in a grotto, and it was just gorgeous. Like, it is a good composition. It's just the handling and potentially the mixing even could have had a hand in that as well, made it feel a little bit less, or rather too clean than it should have for what it was trying to do. There's definitely a world out there where this was mixed slightly different, or they used a different choir that sounds a little bit more organic at the end product. And again, great song, beautiful track. I love the feel of it, but it does kind of get some points off for me because it feels a little too much like it's faking it. And that just sucks a lot for a song that could have otherwise given me complete chills, but I was so distracted by that choir issue that it kind of took me out of it a little bit. There's definitely that fine line to find, and sometimes you just kind of miss the mark, and that's not necessarily a complete fault on any one individual's part in the process. It's just something that happens sometimes. And that's why I'm saying it's losing points, not necessarily a bad song, because I still believe the composition here is so hauntingly beautiful. It makes me want to walk around this dark, dreary scenery and kind of reflect on the beauty of the nature that carved it out, you know? Like, nobody did this by hand, it was all nature. That's the vibe I'm getting from this, and why I called it a grotto theme in a way, because that's the energy I'm getting. It's definitely like ocean adjacent, it has that feel to it, but it sounds so beautiful, so empty and hollow, yet full of information, and you're not entirely sure why. There's definitely that about it as well. It's just unfortunate that the choir was kind of taking me out of it, because otherwise it was an absolutely gorgeous song. But now I'm going to get to Year of Tribulation and see what that has in store for me. There was a comment that was a reply to the original one that was like, Year of Tribulation, like all caps, so that makes me feel like this one's probably going to be really good, and I hope it is. So without further ado, let's get to that one, shall we? Ooh, we're still in that like mysterious. I wasn't sure if they were gonna do something else with the tone. Ooh, maybe I spoke too soon. Oh, more intensity, more presence. Yeah, this one has like a war march feel to it. To battle, you know, it's got that rhythm to it. So it still has that mysterious backbone, but great sync on the brass there. You know what? This one feels better with the vocals. I really like that bit with the harp just kind of being present here at the end, where it was like the focus of the first song. And a nice resolution to end it off. Okay, yeah, definitely changing my opinions a little bit now that I've heard that song and how it's mixed and everything. Now, this performance definitely makes me feel like they did record it in person. This is probably entirely a difference on how it's written. The other one was a little bit more stiff and stringent. This one had a little bit more of that flow to it, and it felt a lot more organic and natural. It still did have a little bit of it at first, but I think that's just the choir. I think they just might sound like that, so I no longer think that this is a matter of having a pre-recorded canned choir, but instead it's purely a matter of the writing and how that changes the music and how it can change even a performance. Even when the song and the choir are theoretically the same, I assume they use the same choir for these songs given that they're in the same location for the same album. It would make sense, but sometimes certain groups just sound better with other songs and some other compositions. Sometimes they just don't work quite as well. And I think that might just be the case here. It's not artificial. It's not fake. It's the same choir, but they just handled this one better. It was written a little bit more smoothly to work with those voices, whereas the other song, given that it was so stripped down, and again, there was a little bit of the mixing factor in there as well, because this one had a lot more brass and a little bit more rhythm to it, and it had just more stuff taking up space in the sound. So you're able to mask that a little bit, like I was referencing in the last section. So if anything, this is a great example of how to and to not handle that sort of composition stuff, where you're like, hey, we need the choir, let's just put them in here. And it's like, maybe you shouldn't have. Maybe you should have done something slightly different. Maybe you should have used a different instrument instead of the choir, something like that, or at least revisited how to write that section to make it sound a little bit less stiff. It's not necessarily something you should overthink, but it's definitely a great example here of the A or B, how you can or cannot make or break a song depending on how you approach it in different ways. But on the song overall, I really like the vibe of this one a lot more than the other one. The other one was haunting and beautiful. I do enjoy that a lot. But this one just overall felt like a better composition. It had a lot more focus on the different parts, the separation of the brass going down. The harp in here was in a lot more sensible spot because it was kind of just an accentual thing, not the overall instrument, the main focus point of the song. Whereas the other song had pretty much all focus on the choir, and that was probably a factor of it too. It was just a little too much there, a little too much focus, where this one separated and broke down all of that duty of the music onto separate instruments, and it made it a lot more balanced throughout, not just in sound, but overall composition as well. They were sharing jobs instead of the one thing trying to keep the whole song together. Like, sure, they had the harp in there, but that became more of a support instrument after the choir came in, and then the choir became the main melody. Whereas for this one, it was pretty much entirely spread between the brass and everything else, so it just helped balance it out a little bit, especially the low-end brass really doing a lot of weight carrying, as it should. So I no longer think it's a problem with the choir. I don't necessarily even think it's a problem with the composition, but sometimes songs just do and don't work with certain approaches, but sometimes even with an amazing composer, and we know that the composers for these games are really good at what they do, sometimes they don't even notice. Sometimes they just write something and they need to get it done, so it gets done, and maybe that's what happened. Maybe it was something that was like, it's not enough of a problem to worry about, let's just keep moving on, and because you're not really making that much of a gain on, income off of that, you're like, why put all the money back into redoing it? You start reaching into the whole, business aspect of being a composer as well. How much is it worth having to go back and redo something if it still works, but it's just maybe not quite where you want it to? It's very possible that the composer saw exactly what I did or heard it and was like, yeah, fuck it. It's sometimes that's just the choice you make. It's not necessarily the wrong one. As much as we would all love to have the most ideal version of a song, it is also a factor of, can you be done with this when the deadline hits? Can I keep my job based on my performance because it's still gonna do its job as a song? But that's getting a little bit too into the roots of the technical and maybe political aspect of being a composer professionally, which I'm not. I'm just assuming that that's a factor there, knowing the field like I do. So maybe they thought that way, maybe they didn't notice at all, and maybe they thought it was fantastic. Either way, it is also very subjective, so it kind of feels like I'm putting words into their mouth if I don't put a disclaimer here about that, so that's what this is. But I'll stop yapping and I'll digress. Two really beautiful songs in their own right. I just had my hit or miss moments about each one of them, as I kind of do a lot of the times. I do tend to love a lot of the songs I listen to on this channel, but once in a while you do have something that's more of a 7, then you can't have 10s all the times, The oops all bangers effect isn't really something that's realistic to expect, and I don't. So you know what? This one was pretty good. I would give both of them together a solid 8. I really like that second one, but even the first one I would still put at a solid 6.5 or 7. It was a really good theme. I don't know why I'm rating these, but I guess that's just kind of what I'm doing with this video at this point. So I'll digress there before I start changing my format for no reason even further, and thank you all so very much for watching. If you have anything else you want me to get to, by all means, drop it in the comments below and I will do my best as always to get to those. And otherwise, if you just like this video and you want to follow me and support me for more stuff in the future, you know how to do all that, and I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye!